Hey, what's up? Welcome back. 11 o'clock, which means it's class time. Hey, people. We got some cool stuff to look at today. I'll talk about that in a second, or we'll see that in a second. If you're watching this video on YouTube and you're wondering what the heck's going to be in this video, we are going to, we're continuing to build a Twitter clone. I guess I'm going to tell it to you right now. And I don't know where we left off. We left off right there, kind of on Tuesday. And I said, hey, you got to build the follow and the unfollow. And then I kind of built it. So if, you know, just out of personal interest, and also like, you know, like there's, I don't know if vengeance is the right word, but, you know, it bested me a little bit over the summer, and I wanted to come back and make sure, you know, I got the best, I got it done. So, so I added that in. I encourage you not to look at my, you know, solution when you go to the drawing board to build it, because I was saying to a few people that got here early, and this is a really strong word, you know, it's like, it's kind of like started to, sink into me, like when I use this word, it's like, wow, that's a really strong word. But I said, you know, there are times when I hate this class, and that's too strong of a word. But there's times where, but like last night at 11, when I had prepped nothing for today, I really wasn't in the mood. I was like, I just want to do something else. I don't. But then, like by 3:30 in the morning, I felt really glad that I had been forced, right, to like actually kind of like, let's get this done, and I had a deadline. So that's an argument in favor of maybe giving deadlines, which I don't do much as a teacher. So anyhow, but I really enjoyed kind of doing it, and so you know, I added these things, and that's what we're going to see today is like how to add those aspects into Twitter. And I also kind of, when I sat down, like what else could I teach you? I was kind of like, we're really paralleling the summer boot camp. I feel like that's a good code pathway. And best just to stick with that and sort of follow it through. And quite frankly, I gotta watch the videos before I know what's coming. Like I kind of remember, but it's like, well, we're at week 13, video 2, you know, or day 13, video 2 of summer boot camp, and so I don't know. Those are my thoughts. But first thing, don't these people look happy? Wouldn't you want to be a part of something like that? Yeah. Yeah, of course. Who would not want to be a part of something like that? They are ecstatic over zeros and ones in coding. And you too can be one of these ecstatic people. November 21st at 9 a.m. at Google Building, CL2. So this is on Google's campus. And that might be fun for you, just to come up to Google and see Google's campus. And it only costs 20 bucks. You could get a tick, right, for $20. And or if you scroll over a little more, you can get tickets. Maybe we should sue them for false advertising, because I paid 20 and only got one ticket. Should be get ticket. Is there a group going? So myself, Rio Waller, who's driving her own vehicle up Friday. She's faculty over. Do you know Rio? Yeah, you guys know Rio. So Rio's going to be up there, and then Chaba. Do you guys know Chaba? He's like, you know, Java kingpin in the valley. He's like the boss lord of Java in Fresno. He's head of the Java developers group or whatever, I don't know. But Chaba is probably going, and I have 2 to 3 seats in my truck. I'll probably just go up Saturday morning and come back Saturday night. So if anybody wants to go, and you want to ride up, and Chaba is probably going to go with me because he asked, you know, hey, are you going and you want to carpool and what? I just haven't heard back. So that's why I say there's 2 to 3 seats. If he isn't going, there's 3 seats. So yeah, come check it out. I'm presenting on Go, but it's all stuff you've heard. So, but if you wanted to come in and just sort of like, you know, be up there in front at the presentation and then put it on your resume, you could just be like, you know, presented, and you could be part of the presentation. So
we could cheer for you and make you seem really cool.
Right. Yeah, you could say cool stuff, and that'd be cool. So, all right, so let's take a look at how this is running, and let me see if I can remember all the URLs, because some of them are just like by memory. Hopefully it's running. And so what were some of the things I built in? There's follow and unfollow, so following people. So I'm going to log in, and I'll log in as like, let's first look at our data store, localhost 8000.
Can I ask you which exact file you're using right now to serve up? Where are you at?
I'm in 44 code review. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just starting at the last one, and that has everything, but these are building it up in steps, so you can
Okay.
sort of walk through instead of looking at one overwhelming wall of code. You could find like, oh, that's the piece that got added, that's the piece that got added. I know there's better ways to do this with GitHub, but I don't do that, nor do I maybe know exactly how to do it. Where you go like, compare this commit to that commit, and it shows you the change. Right?
Git diff.
Huh?
Yep. Git diff.
Get
That's
to.
only if you're overwriting the same file.
So let's see what I got here. So I have my users, and then I have my tweets, right? And so list entities, those are the tweets, and then I have the follows. And so this is how I did the follows. And this is something that can be improved because originally, I mean, obviously this is okay. Where is it? The key name and following are the same. So maybe there's some way to improve that, but probably. We'll see if we clean that up. Am I in the code review? Yeah, code review. So allow us to change it if we find a way. And so there's how I'm doing that. And so I just want to see who to log in as. Like, so follower cow kid is. I can't remember how I was thinking about this last night. Hold on. Well, let's just see if we can figure it out from here. I'll log in as Cowboy, since we're in Fresno, or Clovis, and then go to following. And so Cowboy is following Cow Kid and somebody. So Cowboy is following Cow Kid and somebody. So Cowboy, follower, right? The follower is following Cow Kid and somebody. And so that's what we see right here. Pretty cool. And following me, right? Who's following me? Somebody is following me. Uh-oh. Somebody's following me. And so here is, so what did we just say? Cowboy.
So there's somebody following.
Yeah, follower is somebody, and he's following Cowboy. I don't know why this is hard for me. Somebody is the follower following Cowboy. So what do you guys think about that? The words get confusing. There's a lot of follow, following, follower. I'm like, I got to find some other way to sort of keep that a little bit less confusing. So that's you can see the follow who you're following. I'm following this person. Cowboy's following these people, and you can see who's following you. And then let's see. You know, if there's somebody like user. So who is Cowboy following? Cowboy's following Cow Kid and somebody, and we have Cow Kid, somebody. He could follow himself, I guess, or we could create a new account. So we'll create a new account, and Cowboy, Cow Kid, somebody, nobody at example.com, nobody. Cool. So nobody's logged in. And we could go to get somebody to log in or to see different users. How do we see different users? We have to go to users, and we could go to like user Cowboy. And so this is where obviously like you'd have more efficient ways to get places. So here's Cowboy, and now I could follow, right? That shows up. So I could follow Cowboy, and then I could also go and I could follow Cow Kid. I actually have, distant family who named their son Cowboy. That's his first name, like on his birth certificate. And they're a big ag family. It's like, I think that kid's destiny is written for him already.
Pretty much.
He's going to be something in agriculture, right? They do a lot of like livestock, roping, sheep in the hills. That would be cool, dude, if he ended up being an astronaut. Cowboy, we got you coming in. It's kind of cool, but at the same time. So I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going and looking at user Cow Kid. CowKid has no posts. I could follow him too. And so now if I go see who's nobody following, Cowboy and CowKid, who's following nobody? Nobody's following me. Or nobody's whatever. I'm losing track. Sorry. For nobody's following him. You have my dad to blame for that. My destiny was written for me too. And then if we refresh this, we could see, the follower is following Cowboy and CowKid, and nobody is following nobody. Dang, it just got so much more confusing. So that's pretty cool. And then the other neat thing is when I did that, I don't know where I last left it off. I don't know if this will do it. No, it didn't show up yet. Let me see if it came in here. I think I got to upload it. Let me just look here. Hey, I got an error. Here is type /f. All right, so when you get followed, right, an email gets sent out. From twit clone support@example.com, to test44@example.com, you are being followed. I think that's probably one of the best subject lines ever. What does Twitter say when you get followed? Do they say you're being followed?
I think they say something like you have a new follower.
You have a new follower. Yeah, you are being followed comes with a little bit of baggage.
So-and-so is now following you.
And then if I deploy this, so Control C, and let me just make sure I deploy it to the right spot. Happy Animal, twit mock, cool. Go app, deploy. And I put down here in the notes, like I have spent hours of my life sometimes trying to figure out why is my thing not deploying. Because I thought it was down there in the notes. Did you see it?
No.
Oh, you rolled in. Like maybe I flew past it. Anyhow, there's somewhere in here I added it in. That's something that is helpful for that. It's not there. Who knows? I could look at files for a long time. So, cool, I'm deployed. And so if I now go up here and do twit mock at AppSpot, that's live on the web. And there's nothing there, I guess, because it's not showing anything. So I'm going to log in and create an account. And I don't know, we'll do people in class. Daniel at example. What's your email, dude? Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
So, privacy, Todd. That was interesting. Whoa. Tweet. Hello. Click the button twice. Click the button twice. I don't know if I've tested tweeting up here. That's kind of funny. Try clicking it mini. I think I need to disable that button. Daniel's a little bit OCD. I don't know what kind of behavior would you call that. Obsessive compulsive.
Impatient.
Impatient. That's the best description. All right, so let's log him out and create a new account. Get that weird fuak. Fuak. And then I think we could go to user shin. And the index for this query is not ready to serve. See the dashboard indexes page for admin console. I don't know what that means. Let's see if it does it for Daniel. Doesn't like that either. You want to see there?
Yeah. So I don't think it's generating an index.yaml when we're doing a go app serve, and so it's not uploading to App Store, which means the app spot, which means the app spot's not actually indexing stuff, which means queries won't work.
So index.yaml right there. Tweets. Yeah. The thing I'll show you on this example here first, okay? So change directories 40, send email, and go app deploy. I didn't actually try deploying that one last night, evidently. So here's the send email. So just old school handle func, right? Go to here, index, and then handle index, context, user, and then create a message sender, right? Give who the sender is, and to, so you can have multiple twos, slice of strings, and a subject and a body, and then if there's an if error is equal to mail send, and then get that, and if the error is not nil, there is an error, right? And failed to send it. I thought this was very witty. Don't forget our plans. Hark till later. Shakespeare. That's actually the documentation. Oh, here it is. Go app deploy. Right? So that's that deal. If you're having trouble with go app deploy, try this. Right there. But this is actually the documentation on send mail. So let's just see send mail and refresh here. Okay, did I not deploy that?
You're not actually responding to the.
Oh, there we go. And page not found. So it's running. And then send mail. Send mail is the route right there. So run that. Doesn't look like anything happened, but where did that get sent? Todd McLeod at fresnocitycollege.edu. Whoa. It's kind of cool, right? It's like, hey, I actually just sent an email. So how do you learn about the send mail deal? Is Golang App Engine, and then in here under services, you got mail, and then the overview. And so, you know, there's for security purposes, the sender of an address of a message must be one of the following: Gmail or Google Apps account of the user is currently signed in. Email address of the form, anything at app name appspotmail or anything at app alias appspotmail.com. And any email address listed in the email API authorized senders found in the App Engine settings page of developer's console. So you can't just like, I'm going to send this as anybody. Which is a little disappointing to me, right? But it also totally makes sense. Cold Fusion used to let you just send email whatever from anybody. Wild web days, no lockdown. I mean, you could still figure out how to do that some way probably. And then they have some examples, obviously. And then one thing is at godoc.org, and this was in Caleb's videos, App Engine. And then you get, so I just went to Godoc and searched for App Engine, and you have googlegolang.org App Engine. So you go there, and then, you know, package App Engine, and look at the path up here, right? Kind of a different path for package. And then down here, you have a whole bunch of directories. And you have the mail directory. And the way we got here was like right here, mail package, right? So message is part of that. So here's the type message. And then here's that example from the docs, which I thought was very witty.
I believe it is currently the law in the United States, though, that automated messages like that have an unsubscribe button.
Yeah.
I know for sure that like every website's got it. I'm pretty sure it's U.S. law that automatic messages like that have an unsubscribe URL attached.
Yeah, and you see that here, sitting. Here we go. Unsubscribing. A user must be able to unsubscribe in one of the following ways.
Or you can just host it in Africa.
Yeah, Nigeria. So what is this? What are these restrictions here? So I'm not actually totally clear on that. So if I create it and they're logging, if I create my app and they have Google logins, then and they log in with a Gmail address, then that user can send email through my app. Is that right?
You can say the from is from the user that's currently logged in if they're logged in through Google logins.
But not if I create my own login system.
Correct.
And only, yeah, and that means they have a Gmail account. So then we could say, okay, hey, this is from this user. Because Google's able to watch that then, right?
Yeah.
And any email address of the form, anything. So if I have a custom domain, right, and it's pointing to that, and it's like, this is at, you know.
Nope, it must be the app name, app spot mail.
That's totally lame.
Yep.
Well, but I could go into my email API authorized senders, and I could put in a what do they call it? Like service at McLeods.com.
Yes, you can do that.
And then it'd be able to come from that address.
Yes.
And they'd know that, okay, this is your address associated with you somehow. They probably have some authentication or verification thing that you have that address. You're not sending it some other way. But if somebody, so we can't have users send email if we don't use Google logins, and they're just like, you know, at Yahoo or Hotmail or something, right?
So yeah, we can't claim it's from them. We can say
Okay.
it's on their behalf. Or that anything, you can replace anything, so you can stick their username in there from our own login system.
Yeah, interesting. All right.
So we can do cowboy at twitmock.apps.mail.com.
All right. What is interesting for y'all to see in terms of how that stuff was implemented? The following. You just want to look at some of it, and so like how's the best use of your time? Like what do you want to see in the next 50 minutes? What? We have to decide. You're the teacher. Lead us. Show us. We're also kind of like what? We're at week 11 out of 17. How many weeks, you guys? 17 is finals week. Is that right? So we got 6 weeks left. Is there something that you'd like in the class for the rest of the class? Like, do you want a project? Like, I was thinking it might be cool to, like, 6 weeks, let's build something and use GitHub and, 3 people, 4 people per team. But team stuff is kind of funky. But if it's something that, I think it's fun to kind of like, all right, let's actually try to do something with GitHub. And, people can pull and commit and make branches and then just see what we could build. I was thinking we could build something for people to sell homework that others could buy. You could upload all your homework, right? And then, people could go in there and be like, I totally need a paper on, out of Africa. And it could all be like encrypted so that we don't get, and papers could only be sold once, right? So we don't get like, it put into, what's that thing where they check to see if that's out there on the web? Turnitin, yeah, turnitin.com. That was started by a guy who went to Bullard High. No? You don't like that idea? I thought it was kind of good.
People are trying to be very careful about suggesting anything. I wouldn't mind doing it.
Come up with another idea. Yeah, people are like, I don't want to create any more work, dude. Comp size hard. All right, so main, just a couple new routes. So following goes to Fing, following me goes to Fing me, and the naming thing was pretty hard for me, like it's just like whoa, kind of making sense of the naming stuff. And then there's like follow and unfollow, just sort of process that, and I put that under API, and so we could just take a look at those. And so the API stuff is all going to be in the API folder, and then all the other route stuff like Fing is right here. I just left that in main. And so for Fing, following somebody, you get a new context, and then get the session, and so that gives us a memcache item, and then take that, get a variable of type session data, which is right here. And so I have a user, right? But then session data is kind of what I'm passing into all my templates, and so these are different fields that different templates use. And I don't know if there's a better way to do this, but it's like, well, one page needs that, a different page needs this, but I'm kind of passing this to all the templates. I'm just going to stick it all in this one. And so viewing user, following, right? That's all stuff to sort of like trigger conditional logic on the template HTML page. Should I show the follow, unfollow button, right? And so the conditional logic on that was following me. So if I go to follow, I get to see who I'm following, but the users page is actually the one. If I'm looking at a user, right, then I could see I'm following them or I'm not following them. And so, but then I put that into the headers and the footers. And so here on user, right, it's just got header, and then some CSS gets thrown in there for the modal, and then header 2. And we looked at that before, why it's that way. But so here we have a header, and we have header 2. And then in header 2, you can see here is kind of like the logic here. If logged in goes all the way to there, right? So if they're logged in, we're going to show some of this stuff, right? So if they're not logged in, do the log in. If they are logged in, show the log out button. And then inside of that, we have this one, right? Which, are they viewing a user? And so if they're viewing a user, and in which case I'll just have that bool there be true, otherwise it's not there and it's false. And so if they're viewing a user and if they're following the user, right, then we could say unfollow, otherwise say follow, right? So that's just kind of like the buttons, how the buttons are showing up. And so do you want to see that, or you got it? You got it. So that's that part right there. Get session data, and then unmarshal the memcache item, right, the session info into my variable of session data, and then this is logged in is equal to true if there is session data. So error is not nil. You must be, you must attempt to see following from logged out user, right? So you would just get out there if you're not logged in. And if you see any flaws, anybody, definitely stop, or if I say something incorrectly. And then I create a variable of type user, and I unmarshal the memcache item value, unmarshal into user. Why did I do that twice? Because I got SD right here, and that has user into it, and that's unmarshaling. Declare variable of type user, initialize with different values for memcache item. Not sure why I did that. Maybe it'll make sense here in a second. User username. So here's SD, and SD is used in these places, right? And so I pass SD in down here, and that's the person who is looking at the page, and then user is right here, but I'm unmarshaling the same data the same way. So I think that's redundancy right there. So get followees, get this is who I'm following. So following, wow, I'm having a hard time explaining this. Totally made sense when I was writing it. Get followees, get the data store key for the follower. Data store new key, users, username.
Yeah, you got your keys are who you're following with an ancestor of who's doing the following.
Your keys are, yeah, so that's going to users and getting the follower key. So the follower is you know, so where does following? Let's see what following does. Effing, that will help. Following, effing, localhost, and make sure I'm running. I don't think I am. 44, go app serve. Following, login. Well, let's see it without login. Following. You must be logged in. Cool. Login. And cowboy. 1, 2, 3. Submit. Following. So it shows me who I'm following, right? I'm following cowboy's following cow kid and somebody. And so here.
So yeah, you really don't need that user thing since you've got it in session data already.
Yeah, that totally seems redundant. Well, let's take it out and see what happens. So just change all of the user stuff to SD.
Yep, which you've only got the one of.
Whoa, that's way too much. G, K3, SD, and then just get rid of that.
Yeah.
All right, so the person logged in, we are seeing who they're following, and so we get the person's logged in, their key, and then we create a slice of type F. And type F is just following and follower. So that's you know, that thing that we saw in the data store. And then we do a data store new query, and we're going to go to the kind follows and ancestor follower key. So you know, get everybody that you know is right, that this person is following, and get all this. I'm not sure if that makes a difference. Have you used project at all, Daniel?
I believe that this restricts the fields that you're getting out of the data store to just that.
Yeah.
So in this case, the data store's got both follower and following. But you already know who the follower is. You're on their web page. So having the data store only have to give you back half the amount of data could make it faster.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought of that too. It might be interesting to see if so I log here as type T, the type of that, right, that we get back, and the value of that. So it'd be interesting to see that in here because we just ran it, so it should be in here. Attempt to see following. Oh, here it is right there. Here is a type, it's slice of main F, and value is cow kid and somebody. So project only gave us the ones that they're following.
Yeah.
That's cool.
You still have to use get all after the project?
Yeah, the get all is how you get the values from the query.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's where you put it
using
in.
the iterator with run and next.
And I tried to do this last night with just a slice, and it really didn't like that. And I think there's something about you have to use a struct, a pointer to a struct, otherwise it has to implement the load property saver or something like that.
Yeah, it needs the pointer.
Wow. Cool. And error getting the...
I would recommend changing that from error to info-f, though. It's not really an error.
Info-f.
Not that one. You're saying log error f. I'd say log.info-f instead.
Info-f.
That's not exactly an error, and it puts a giant text error in your console when it's an error.
Good, thanks. That's good. All right, so clear as mud. And then following me. So following me, when following me runs, it's there, that one. Following me, nobody and somebody. So that's pretty similar. Context, get session, memcache item. I think I'm doing the same thing here. Let's see if it's redundant. And then unmarshal that because SD is used in these places, right? And so that's person logged in, and this is the exact same thing where I have session data, And then I just unmarshal mem item and same deal. So anywhere I'm using that, I could just use SD. Any more? No. SD. Compact my code. So here we have a filter. So from following follows, I think it deleted the key. No. All right, so from the kind follows, filter following is equal to SD username and get all. So I don't need a key on that.
Yeah, you need the key on the last one because you were doing an ancestor query.
Yeah, yeah. And this one we're not doing an ancestor query. And then put all that in there, and then pass it into the template. And assign it right there. So that's following, and then we can look at the processing, how that gets processed. That's in API. So how do we get here? How do we get to API? In templates, we've got, that would be in the header. API follow, unfollow, right here. And then the user that we're viewing gets passed in, so that gets added right there. And since we have the username at the end on our routes, we could ask for a variable. And so when we have that variable, we have PS right here. So I can say PS by name user, so that pulls it out. So get the session, and then unmarshal that into user. Get the data store key for the follower, the person that does the following, and get the data store key for the followee, the person being followed. I told you I was getting totally confused by all the following, follower, followee. It's like, oh, and then there's like a data structure, there's a method, or a function. I'm like, oh my gosh, way too much following stuff. So this is the follower key. This is the person being followed. And the person being followed, it's an ancestor. What would you say? The ancestor is part of the key, right?
Yep.
They're being followed by whom, right? By that follower. I kid you not, dude. It's just like that part was. It's to explain it is actually harder than it was to actually do it. But it was giving me a little trouble last night too. And then we're going to put to the data store, right? So we're following somebody. We're going to put to the data store the context, the followee key, right? And then here is that struct where it's the struct is following, follower. I should have called this followee. That would have been better, follower. So this one's confusing me a little bit right now. What's put need? Put needs context, it needs a key, it needs the value. Put saves the entity source into the data store with key K. And it must be a struct. Where am I setting the kind?
In the key.
Oh, thank you. So it's going into follows. Got it. And then down here, I'm getting a key for emailing, so I could email the person who is being followed that they're being followed. And so the new key is kind users, and it's the person who's being followed, so that name that we got out of the URL. And there's no ancestor deal to that. And then here, where do I use that? Email key gets passed in right there. And I'm just wondering if I might have been able to use this key, but I think that's different because I needed access to their email and that didn't have it. That's why I had to do that. And so here's the email key, and I get from the data store and put that into here for user. And so now that I have user, I can use user email, right? And I can run this function, follow to email. And so follow to email is pretty much that email deal thing that we saw. And I'm passing in, their email address right here, the recipient. 2 hard things in computer science: clearing cache and naming things. So if you like, that's an example of this. It's like, what to call that? What would you guys call it? Email? That'd be better. Recipient? I don't know, but that's their probably email. Email would probably be clear, right? Email. There we go. And so send the email.
So in this case, you need to add support at example.com to the console in order for emails to be able to be sent out.
Yes. Into the console, the developer's console.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just send them back to the user account, and so that page will reload. When it reloads, it'll see that you're following this person, and it'll change the button to unfollow. So if you were to click the unfollow button, pretty similar. So how many people, this is totally easy for you. Let me see your hands.
A couple of these.
How many people like this is, surprises you that this is like, well, this is like more challenging than I thought it would be? Okay, I kind of fall in that camp too. Anybody have any thoughts about working with different frameworks? Because maybe that's one of the downsides of building web apps with Go is like it's pretty low level, right? I mean, it's pretty down to the metal.
I was just thinking that. I was just thinking with all this work you put into this, you literally should just make a framework out of it. Because at some point, because you were doing all that work, right? And I was just thinking to myself saying that, and then you bring that up. So.
Well, it's like what last class with the developer guy said. Sorry, I forgot his name.
Yeah, Job and Luke.
Yeah, he was saying like, one of the main reasons that they wouldn't go with Go is because there aren't very many tools for it.
Yeah.
The frameworks are still being built.
Yeah. I don't know, because like when you develop in other languages, PHP, I know there's some people working in PHP, or Ruby. Like Ruby is like, you could slap together sort of CRUD stuff in 15 minutes if you know your way around Ruby. I've heard. I don't use it. Haven't used it. But yeah, no, I mean, like I could kind of like, I mean, obviously we was able to put this together, but it surprised me how challenging it's been. And then also, retrospect, when I look back at things that used to challenge me, and then I look back at like, that used to challenge me, like interfaces, man, that was kind of, I struggled with that for a bit. Now I feel like, oh, I totally get it. That's not that bad. Totally understand interfaces. So maybe it'll be the same way with this stuff. Like obviously, if you work with it enough, it'll just be second nature. But like getting keys, and then like, okay, this is an ancestor query, and then setting up flat file, aka NoSQL, schemaless data storage, like all of that flat file, NoSQL, schemaless data storage. 6 months ago, I was like, whoa, what is that stuff? How do I think about that? Even at the beginning of the semester compared to now, right? Comparing NoSQL, flat file, schemaless to SQL, and like, okay, SQL, we've got the data hierarchy. Databases are made of tables, are made of records, are made of fields, are made of characters, And then, okay, well, how do we start thinking about NoSQL? Well, it's a kind instead of tables. And we have entities instead of fields, But it's like, oh, okay, like after working with it, it's like I kind of see that. And that makes a lot more sense. How many people know SQL, schemaless, flat file, like what you understood about that at the beginning of the semester versus what you understand about it now? Like how many people have like, oh, I didn't understand at the beginning of the semester and I fully sort of have a good sort of grasp of how that all works now? Just a show of hands. I'm just curious. One?
I don't have a full grasp, but I do know more.
Yeah, you know more.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it.
How many people still are like schemaless, NoSQL, flat file database? You're still kind of like, oh, I don't know. Raise your hand. Okay. Only one? How many people are like, awesome, you got it, let me see your hands? That's one the ego could get behind, right?
I used it in something else. I didn't know that a flat table was a NoSQL table.
Yeah, me either, man. Like yesterday when Luke said, or Tuesday when Luke said that, I was like, huh, flat file. What's the difference between flat file and NoSQL schemaless? So I guess it's the same thing. It's like, okay, cool. I wrote a poem when I was, I think, did I share this with you? You guys know I'm kind of like the humanities guy who studied economics and wrote a bunch of novels and got into programming, right? So I was at Bill Kennedy's lab. But it's hard to admit you don't know. Why? We're getting philosophical here for a moment. Why? Like there's something in us that sometimes it's hard to admit. We don't want to look like a fool. We don't want people to laugh at us and point at us and call us an idiot and to not be wanted. Belonging is one of the deepest human needs. Like if you want to understand one of the greatest programs ever written, it's the human head, right? Or any biological wiring, right? Survive, procreate, belong. If you go into marketing, like you need to understand psychology or any business you go into, and if you can speak to survive, procreate, or belong, right? You're speaking to some of the most fundamental core kernels in the human mind operating system. Survive, procreate, belong.
On that, though, like when you said about why it is that we are afraid to admit that we may not know, and that has, I think, a little to do with our trust in those around us. Like if it would be easier for you to admit, say, your wife, right? Or someone you've worked with for like 20 years.
Yeah, there's a definitely appropriate place.
Right. Well, I'm just saying that it's an innate thing. Like, if we had more trust of the human beings around us, we'd probably be able to admit that, but we don't.
Yeah.
We don't know how to,
Yeah, and so that's exactly my point, right? Like, what is it in us that, if we don't feel like people treat us well when we go into an insecure place, that, hey, I don't know this stuff, laugh at us, point us, we're not going to share. We don't feel comfortable. We don't feel safe. So I was in a training, and the teacher was really hard. He suffered no fools. And, like, developers who've been working for, like, decades would ask questions, and he'd be like, are you an idiot? It's like this, right? And so I was like, I don't want to ask a question. I don't want to raise my hand and admit I don't know. So I wrote a poem. The higher I go, the harder it becomes to admit the higher I go, the harder it becomes to admit I don't know. The more I admit I don't know, the higher I go. I think it's cool. That's pretty good. I think it's cool, right? Because like the higher you go, it becomes harder to admit you don't know. You're supposed to be the one who has the answers, or you're supposed, I don't know. So, I just brought that up because we're asking you guys to raise hands. So we learned more about NoSQL, data storage, all that stuff starting to click. But it has taken me a while to sort of get my head around all of it. So that brings us to the next thing. I mean, we're going to keep going through, we don't have a textbook. Do you have another class with no textbook? Raise your hand. You do? Oh, so is that common in computer science? And then the teacher's just like, this is what you're learning this week? Like, are the majority of your classes no textbooks?
I have never actually had to buy one,
There
but
are textbooks,
oftentimes
it's
they'll be
just
online.
we don't buy them.
Oh, you guys don't buy them? Wow.
And they're not usually needed.
You can find them
online.
online.
It's finding what we need, right?
Pirating.
It really depends.
Yeah, it really depends if you want to or not.
And
Your
sometimes you
class.
you can't really
144.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes
Well, that one.
you know, you can get all your information from the teacher. It depends.
For general ed.
Some
class,
classes
yeah.
require, yeah, 144. For answers.
Sucks.
So we don't have a textbook. It's interesting to hear about your other classes, right? So we don't have that sort of pathway that's defined by chapter 1, 2, 3. Here are your exercises.
Well, you've given us pretty decent.
Yeah, good. No,
Great.
yeah,
I
but
mean, I like it.
we've been following summer boot camp. And is there you guys, I mean, you want to, is there something else you need to get this material? You want me to, work you more? Let me give you assignments? No more work. Do you want to work to create something? I mean, I think we've got enough to actually build something. What would you guys want to build? And that could be fun.
I would say let people decide.
You want to everybody build your
Everybody
own,
build their own kind of website.
work alone or work together?
Explore what's interesting to you.
I agree with her, and then maybe not, as long as we maybe might be able, like you said, work in groups, but work our own project, but maybe allow us to
Team up.
ask
Yeah,
questions
yeah.
amongst each other.
Okay.
Do we have to use, I would love if I did not have to use App Engine though.
I thought you were going to say Go. I'd love if I could just use PHP. Do we have to use Go?
No, I would still use Go, I just don't know if I'd use App Engine.
Well,
I like Go.
Did I mention that Amazon Web Services just recently joined the GitHub pack?
I got
Yeah.
the
Like
email, yeah.
Tuesday.
And they have Go support.
Well, they just gave you a
In-
Linux
in-
machine, I believe. So
No, but they have a new AWS Golang. There's something that's just released. I don't know. AWS SDK for Go.
yeah, that would
Amazon
give you
Web
access.
Services.
That's basically an SDK to access their database. So you don't have to write your own TCP functions to connect to it.
Yeah.
Besides that, I believe there's also Ocean Services or whatever are also in the GitHub pack for if you just need a Linux server. And then I believe Nitrous also, you can configure it to temporarily serve as a server, a Linux machine.
You can also use Microsoft for free.
You
What I
use
do.
Microsoft. And your
So if you're wanting that book, I took the link down because somebody was telling me online that I watched your video on YouTube and I could get that book. You might want to disable that. So if you need this book, just email me and say, hey, I'm in the CSU Fresno class. Give me access to the link. And I'll get you access to it. So the assignment will be, just we break it down into steps. So you get credit for the different steps. Like you got to have, front end, build a front end. You got to have, session where you can log in. You got to have, I don't know, you want it broken down in steps or just one big one? Steps, you'll kind of get more credit to offset this other stuff, right? So if you do the whole web assignment, then, and you didn't do some of these, and that will offset it. But these are easier in some ways. How would you like it?
Well, oh, yeah,
Steps?
but
Okay.
depending on what people do, like, session may not be involved in their project, or can we do it like
That's true,
a planning phase, and then maybe a design phase? I don't know.
Should I change the weighting so this one project is worth like a certain percentage of your grade, all of your grade?
No.
Like, do you want half of it to be like all the assignments, and then half of it to be this project, your grade? And the only reason I asked for your buy-in on this is because that's a little bit more unorthodox to change syllabus weighting halfway through a semester. So I'm just looking for what works for you guys. And I also know that this is unorthodox, right? But to me, that's kind of like the essence of innovation, is to quit doing what you've always done and what everybody else has always done. So what, we're in a class. The goal is, not for you to get a grade. The goal is for you to be able to make money so you could offer value to society, get money back in exchange, and pay rent and have a car and provide for your family. There are no grades in life. There are only paychecks. That's all that matters when you become an adult. Grades are an illusion. All that matters is, do you have money for rent? Because if you don't have money for rent, the world doesn't care about you. It'll run you over with a bulldozer. 50% of the people in the world make less than $2 a day, and people care, but that's the system.
A small amount of people care.
It's
Right.
Well, you care, but it's like, all right, and I got to make rent.
Right.
So I'm sorry, you try to help each other out as much as you can, whatever, we all do what we can, but.
Everybody's scraping around for crumbs.
What's that?
So I feel like we got off topic.
What, you want to get back to code?
It's all good.
So it's the unorthodox, innovate, you got to make rent. So what do you want to do? You want me to figure it out for you?
Just keep it the same way as the rest of it. I mean,
Yeah.
All right.
I really wouldn't want to put half my grade on the project and just let other projects.
So,
I'd say like have it be in steps, but then have all of them due at the end, so that whenever you get to them, it's fine.
So kind of like when you teach all the steps like your assignments.
all right, so
Because that way we know like what each individual requirement is for it. Like at the very minimum, you have to have a login each session. Yeah.
and build. Website project, front end, this will be the first part. Build the front end for your website project. Submit GitHub repo for credit. Build your entire project, by the way, in GitHub using steps. So even though that's not, idiomatic to do the 01, 02, 03, right, like I do in here for the code, do that with your stuff so that I could be like, oh, there's the front end. I don't have to like dig through the finished product to like, oh, okay, there's your front end, right? So,
You could also label it front end, right? But that would be easier with numbers, right?
yeah, just 01 front end, 02, so I could see sequentially how. And then also just submit a screenshot so I could just kind of see, like I don't have to like figure out how to run all your crap. So it's just like, here's a screenshot of what it looks like. And you want to see the code, there it is, right? I'll just put that instead of if you'd like, please I'll submit a screenshot here through Blackboard. All right, so that will be worth, how many points do you want? Just kidding. And unlimited attempts, and we'll keep your highest grade. And it's just an individual submission. So if more than one of you is working on it, you just each submit it to like the same GitHub URL repo through your account, right? And it's just easier that way. And that's it. All right, so that's the front end. And what would be the next one? Right, front end, but then maybe somebody. Do you guys want to have user accounts? You want to make that a requirement? Lori's saying maybe she just wants to do a static site.
Huh?
I think user accounts is pretty essential to what we've been learning, so I think that should be like one of the part of the spec, right? So
But maybe free to do it your own way.
Yeah, you may just have admin user accounts only or something.
okay, that's a good idea.
You just use like, Google Auth.
Google OAuth, sure. However you want to do it. All right.
We'll hit OAuth too eventually, won't we?
Later. Yeah.
Yeah, later on. Yeah.
Integrate user accounts into your website project. submit the GitHub repo for credit. So do I need to add anything else here to the description? Because it could be an admin account, right, where you just go to some back end and then you could change something that, oh, this is going to display on the front end now.
So yeah, if you don't need user accounts, just make something for the admins to change settings or something. But we've been going over user accounts for a long time, so at least put something in.
And so user accounts are going to also entail session, right? Log in, log out, session. And when you implement your session, cookie, memcache, right? One of those. You look, is that right? Yeah, okay. Anything else? But log in, log out, session, and then there's going to be some sort of, what are you going to do? I guess we can do stuff later. Are we going to store user information in the data store? Won't we have to, right? If somebody's logging in? Okay, so store user information somewhere. What else would they use?
Lori's the one who said he didn't want to use Appington.
I don't know about one, I just don't know.
Okay, store user info somewhere. Right?
I know your system's going to go down.
Yeah, it's going to be in memory. I'm storing it in memory. Store user info somewhere permanent. Store user info somewhere permanent.
Unencrypted text file.
Yeah.
Log in, log out, password, an encrypt password. Encrypt password for storage with bcrypt.
What if we use OAuth?
That's why this whole step thing stuff going. Alright.
That's a good point.
So,
That's a very good point.
so if using your own password system, make sure it's encrypted. If you're using some other password system, like the Google logins or something, let them deal with it.
Front end, user accounts. What else?
We're probably going to need a backend somewhere.
A backend. Tell me what's that mean to you?
The actual core functionality of whatever in the world you're doing.
Yeah, like the user does something and it stays on the site.
What makes your website dynamic,
Business
basically.
layer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they uploading
Serving.
stuff?
Server code.
Yeah.
Server code. So that's some of that. The back end is just like a user account, but then they might just be changing display this on the front end if it's just like what do they call that? CMS, content management system, right? Or it's like you can log in and change what's being displayed on the
Just
front
like you
end.
did with your Twitter bit, the user authentication and stuff like that, that was only a very small section of what everything was actually
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually, it's a Twitter thing. It
So,
tweets.
Should we call this functionality? Back end functionality?
Let's go.
All right, so add some server-side backend functionality. Is that redundant? What the heck? Tech problems. How did I turn off the volume? It's like those podcasts I don't know, some podcasts have like the little buttons they push for different, instead of audience applause, they have
Soundboard.
soundboard, thank you. Add some server-side functionality to your website. And anything else need to be added on that? Submit GitHub repo. Credit. Include in this repo text file explaining what you added. Yeah? You know. Should we make something where you have to use Ajax? So that'll just be one step. Like, you gotta use Ajax somewhere. Ajax is like essential to web stuff. So whether it's like, you know, autocomplete field that's looking up, oh, sorry, that username's taken. So let's add.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking there. Like you can.
That's part of front end. So we should put it right here. Just have another front end Ajax that you got. I'm going to specify. I think let's make there's one step where you have to use Ajax. Website front end Ajax. Should we call it Ajax or Ajag? I don't. You don't need to use XML. JSON, right? Use Ajax somewhere on your site. Submit GitHub repo for credit. As much as possible, you know, if you could provide like, even like right there, provide a screenshot, like here's the repo, and then here's a screenshot of the Ajax code. So it's just like right there in Blackboard for me, and I don't have to dig through your code. I could be like, oh, that's cool. And then if you provide a little description when you're submitting, like, oh, I used Ajax to do this, check out the screenshot, here's a link to the code, you know, that's cool. Just makes it nice for me to see, oh, nice, I like what you did.
Should we go over Markdown a little bit next time so they can put it in the readme.md?
Cool. You're going to go over Markdown next time. That'd be awesome. Daniel's going to teach us about Markdown on Tuesday.
Works for me.
Totally works for me too. Front end Ajax, user accounts, back end functionality. What else?
That's good.
That's good?
Yeah.
This is a good starting
That's 6
point.
weeks.
Yeah, this is a good starting point at least.
And again, you know, the main thing isn't about any class. It's not about your grade, right? And so like when I look at this from a teaching pedagogy structure of the class, those are 4 assignments out of 20 or 30, right? And so, you know, but this is like really important. And so to structure that in the traditional canonical, you know, pedagogical way, pedagogy is just like, what do you use for teaching? You know, I'd give this a lot of weight. You got to do it. I'm not. Like, you could do all those other stupid little ones where you're like, define this, tell me what your thought is on that, you know, on polymorphism, and you'd be like, this is polymorphism, and that carries as much weight as this, which is going to take a little bit of time, you know? So the main thing here isn't, and again, this is the, you know,
This is important. Most classes teach little pieces, so this project here is your chance to learn how to put all those pieces together in one big whole. Very few classes get into that. You learn all these pieces, and it's like, okay, now you figure out how to put it into the rest of your project.
Yeah, and then the main takeaway is to actually do it. So do it not because, oh, I got to do this to get a grade and pass the class. Do it because, oh, I want to learn this. And yeah, so that's what I have to say. And that's a little bit hard sometimes. But I think if you learn that skill here in class, like Job and Luke were talking, and then Job told me about this, because most people are just on the assembly line. Like, they don't know how to step outside the assembly line. And that's really hard. What is the assembly line? The assembly line is like the preconditioned pathway that we're all following. Okay, go to school, learn a skill, get out, find a job. No. That's where Luke's like, no, man, why go to school? Luke never went to school, right? Luke was like, I'm going to learn calculus. I'm going to learn programming. I'm going to change that. I'm not going to go to work for somebody. I'm going to start a business and sell this. You know, and so if you could get off that pathway, like, oh, I got to get my grade so I could get a job. It's like, to hell with that. I want to learn this stuff. This is awesome. And I'm going to build something. Like if you get off that assembly line and quit working in somebody else's factory, you know, you get to go make your own. And that's where you make wealth. And if you have wealth, you're making rent, right? You get to do stuff in life. You get to be creative. You get to have nice meals, right? You get to provide for your family. Ultimately, that's what it's about.
And give me back a little.
And give back,
There
yeah.
we go.
No, that's super important. But I mean, you know, you take care of your own, then you take care of others. But I was thinking one other thing that might be nice on this website project is something new, right? So that could be like a fifth one. Like do something new that I haven't showed you, that we haven't seen. You guys like that? So you could come in and be like, hey, check this out. I was working with, it is called microdata. What's it called where, you know, when you search for something, like if I'm going to search for, you know, chocolate chip cookies, right? And we talked about this last time. Like I get this right here, ratings, you know, the time, the calories. And so that's put in there with something, and it's called what? What is that called?
It's the metadata.
Yeah, but there's some specific name for it. And that's one thing you could figure out. Like, how do you get a search engine to get that stuff? And it's like they have a new structured data. Structured data. And structured data, Google developers, schema.org. And schema.org. Welcome to schema.org. But anyhow, in here, you know, there's something in here, and there's a better page for this. There's one other word that it gets confused by, but that's how you do that stuff.
Are you talking about how to place those things in your?
Yeah, so you have to take your data and you have to sort of tag it with certain appropriate tags, and then the search engines can do this. And then the search engines recognize you know what the hell you're doing as a developer. You're helping us do our job and deliver a better product to our clients, right? People who are searching at Google, and we're going to rank you higher, right? And not only that, right, cool, I'm going to go here and go to this website, and they just got ad revenue if they're displaying ads, right? Or whatever, you know, got a chance for me to become one of their customers because they were ranked high.
Though, to be at the top sometimes? Like Nestle, I'm sure paid.
Well, for ads, you pay for ads. You don't pay for organic search results. That's an ad, right there. But these they don't pay for. Those aren't paid for. Yeah, something new. I'll add that in. All right. So Tuesday we'll just keep going forward. We'll learn about Markdown. Is that right? And then we'll also learn about whatever else is next for summer boot camp. And then come in with questions. Like, come in with a question, like on Tuesday, if you're stuck or whatever. It's like, I don't know how to do my layout this way or that way. Talk to Alan. Alan did an amazing layout. Check this out. Have you guys seen this? Oh, I just got to talk Alan up for 1 second. AlanMills.net. You ready? Like, right on. Look at that.
Template, and both you and I know that.
Well, you did it the way you did it. Even if you borrowed somebody's code, you put your content into it. How did you do it? Where did you find it? Right? Talk to Alan. Talk to Alan. All right, see you.